Pacers were blown out by Philly last night. You saw that on TNT, but still sitting third in the Eastern Conference, 44 games into the season, thanks in large part to a healthy Victor Oladipo, who recently sat down with Roz Gold on Wood A.
Victor Oladipo is just a fantastic basketball player.
He had a breakout year last year for the Pacers, and he looks great here in the season already.
Oladipo to the rim.
Shake him up, Vic.
Here's Oladipo, 3 seconds.
Race up.
Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Victor Oladipo, this is your city.
What have you found it takes to bear the responsibility of being the leader and the face of this franchise?
A lot goes into it, you know what I mean? And too much is given, much is required. And I've been hearing that for like every day for the past year. It's been tough, man. You gotta know what to say and when to say it, but at the same time, you gotta listen. I think being a leader is something that you have to learn how to do. There are natural born leaders, but there's some aspects of leadership that are things that you have to continuously learn from the people you surround yourself with, from your teammates. For me, I'm learning that every day. I'm learning my teammates. I'm learning what they like, what they dislike, and just about their everyday life. And also with leadership comes sacrifice. Sacrifice for yourself, sacrificing your time, and doing whatever it takes to help your team win. And that's what I'm locked in and focused on.
You have a pretty balanced roster, a number of guys scoring in double digits. Does that balance kind of take the pressure off a little?
In general, yeah. I mean, it's hard to guard us. You can double me, but I'm throwing it to Domas, and Domas is throwing it to whoever else is open. Or I'm throwing it to Miles, and Miles is throwing it to whoever else is open, or they're shooting their shot. So we got a lot of depth, and we got a lot of good players who can make things happen. But I never had a lot of pressure on me to begin with. So whether they double me or not, I don't feel any pressure. I just got to go out there and play.
Has your team earned respect yet? What is the respect you feel your team deserves right now?
I mean, being with them every day, I believe we earn a lot of respect. We deserve a lot of respect, but I don't think guys give it to us, which is fine, you know. At the end of the day, everybody isn't going to respect you, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. Just focus on each other and continuing to get better. We know that we can play at a high level in this league. We know we can win at a high level in this league, and we just got to continue to keep proving it every day.
Mentioned the Pacers are third in the East right now, and as was discussed there, this is a deep basketball team. Victor Oladipo is obviously their best player. My question for you guys is this a better regular season team or playoff team? Because they don't necessarily have that superstar guy who scares you in a postseason scenario as good as Oladipo is.
I don't know if I agree with you about Oladipo. I think Oladipo is a guy that...
You think he's there?
I think he is a guy that in today's NBA, he's a problem in a playoff setting. And look, this is a league right now where you're either a super team or you're a team with quality depth and emerging stars that you're going to hope can carry you deeper into the postseason than they normally would. I think about Boston last year without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. They relied on a similar formula, quality depth as opposed to one or two superstars carrying you. Denver has a team to me right now that's built exactly like that. So I'm not as concerned about the top end of the Pacers roster. I'm more concerned about is their quality depth what it needs to be for them to have a sustained playoff run.
So it's interesting. I think people lose sight of how good they were in the playoffs last year.
They were good,
They lost to Cleveland in 7 games. But I thought it was the toughest series Cleveland had until they made it to the finals, quite frankly.
Agreed.
The Pacers are a team, because they have to be better than the sum of their parts and they have to be on the same page, to some degree, they have to outwork you all the time. And over the course of an 82-game year, that's really difficult. I don't think they have the kind of margin for error to be a high 50s win team. I don't think they can be a 60-win team in terms of their margin for error and their star power. But in terms of their ability to lock in and prepare for a playoff opponent, the number of guys they have on their team, to your point about quality depth, who have basketball IQ, grit and toughness, and are willing to sacrifice for the greater good, is incredible. And their best player, Victor Oladipo, doesn't care anything at all about anything other than winning basketball games. And that puts you in really good stead come playoff time. I think Nate McMillan and his staff will do a great job preparing for series. I think they're a more dangerous postseason team than they are regular season.
Interesting. Yeah, they do have really good depth. I don't disagree with that at all. Trade deadline's coming up next month. where should they be looking, if at all?
You know, it's interesting. I think the one thing for them, it's complicated with what they have. You don't have a lot of pieces there you can aggregate to go get another star-type player without sort of taking a step back in terms of how you really operate.
Yeah.
But they're a team that by design is going to overachieve. And that means all the pieces they have sort of have to fit together in lockstep. If I was going to bring in anything, and you could say this about any contender, I would want more veteran three-point shooting.
Yep.
Somebody who can actually make shots versus a good contest. But who doesn't want a 6'8" guy that can make threes?
Right,
So.
right.
Yeah, I think the same dilemma that the Pacers are going to have come trade deadline is one that's going to plague every other team around the league that's not the Warriors. And that is there one player out there that pushes us up to that very next level,
Right.
Whatever it is, if it's right,
And do they think they're good enough to get to that next
exactly.
level? Yeah.
And with a free agent summer coming up, Matt, where there's so many different scenarios they could play out, I would imagine we're going to see a lot of teams very apprehensive about doing anything crazy because
Certainly.
they know what could potentially
Right.
be coming down the line. When
Certainly if it
when
means
things
taking
go
on
haywire
money.
in the summer and if one player moves somewhere and it kind of sets the whole world on its axis, then we got an opportunity to do some things that we don't want to jeopardize at the trade deadline.
Well, to that end, though, Indiana's really interesting because they're not a team that's going to sit there and think they are a max free agent destination.
Right.
And they only have $60 million on the books for next year. So Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan have the ability to go into trade deadline right now, willing to potentially take some money into the future if it can be the right piece for them. And I'm going to throw out a name for you with no understanding of how they make the math work whatsoever.
Sure.
Mark Gasol, if he gets moved from Memphis, playing with that group of guys, playing with a big like Sabonis who knows how to play and can dribble, pass, and shoot, that would be a fascinating piece to put in there and to give Nate McMillan and see what he could do.
You talked about the Denver Nuggets zagging when everyone else is trying to zig. Indiana could definitely do that if Gasol's there with Turner or Sabonis on the floor with him. That would be
Well,
a
and
really
Turner
interesting
can
scenario.
space off of Gasol and vice
Absolutely,
versa.
absolutely.
They'd be able to be really elite defensively
Right.
in the paint. Let's make it happen. I like it.
Sabonis is great off the ball. Gasol could.
And Indiana has already crashed the party in the Eastern Conference when we weren't expecting it. Nobody looked up and said, hey, there's going to be 5 teams in the East that you have to worry about in that top group, and Indiana's not the 5th team. Right now it's Boston.
Right.
So they gotta be very mindful of the fact that we talked about Golden State, and do you get worse before you get better with Boogie coming in? Well, if you make a move and you're one of these teams, does it set you back before it propels you forward?
Right.
And do you want to take that risk now when you're already in a really good position if you're Indiana?
If it propels you forward, because you never know when
You don't know.
roll the dice on these deals. Well, hopefully you have the day off Monday for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which we have helpfully already planned for you. Wasn't that nice of us? The pair of NBA TV
Somebody
games,
did it.
Thunder and Knicks, Magic and Hawks, and then it's a TNT triple header. Pels, Grizz, Rockets, Sixers, and the Warriors in LA to take on the Lakers. Game time throughout the day, really, here on NBA TV, and then TNT takes over inside the NBA when the night ends. Oh, you worked your way up to NBA general manager from a level probably below where Sue Bird is right now.
Oh,
right?
significantly.
Yeah, I mean, what
Nobody in basketball cared what I had to say about anything. But
what advice would you give her about moving up in an NBA front office?
well, I think she's doing it exactly right, first of all. While she's still focusing number one on playing, she's getting exposure to what it really looks like. When we brought Raja Bell into the front office in Cleveland, he was an invaluable asset to us and a huge resource as a player. But it took some time for him to figure out exactly what it would look like and what the responsibilities would be relative to his family. Because it's different, I think, for a player when they end up in the front office, they don't really understand. It's not like when you play. You don't go home from a road trip. You go to the office from a road trip. It changes. So I think getting exposure to it and understanding exactly what it is you're going to want to do and where your passion in the game lies is meaningful. And Sue's doing this at a time that we've got Becky Bonner, who's in a senior position in Orlando and going to be a GM at some point in this league for sure. Kelly Kruskoff of the Pacers, who was the president and GM of the Fever. Somebody else who's in a very senior position. So Sue is coming in at a very good time to learn the league and figure out where her passion really lies.
Yeah, and I think it's long overdue. We've seen the basketball culture and how connected it is across the lines, from the WNBA to the NBA to the G League to overseas. This is a global game for a reason, Griff, and I think it's got a universal code in terms of how you scout, evaluate, plan, plot, and put together teams. I mean, these things don't change dramatically from league to league in terms of the principles that you bring to the table when you're doing it. So why would you not take advantage of somebody like Becky Hammon or somebody who's operated at the very highest level and use everything that they bring to the game as a resource for your franchise?
And Sue really also is benefiting from the fact that she's doing it in a great organization. Tim Conley, their president, has done a remarkable job in the draft. Arturas Karnisovas is somebody who's had a big role in shaping what their team looks like as well, has an international background that Sue can relate to. So she's learning what she's learning in a great place. Mike Malone, in his 4th year as a coach, has really established a culture there. It's meaningful, too, because sometimes you learn what not to do in an organization, and she's being exposed to a lot of the right things.
And you can't find many basketball resumes better than Sue Bird's. If you're looking for somebody with some smarts to bring into an organization, that's a good place to start. Lots more to get to here on Game Time Live, including, coming up, DeMarcus Cousins' season debut, and debut as a Golden State Warrior, an all-star lineup. The Warriors will roll out against the LA Clippers coming up at 10:30 Eastern.